What's up, Planeswalkers? It's your boy K-Dog. Got another fun video for you guys here. This one we're going to be looking at one I like to call Mardu Pestilence. And this one we're building around Pestilence Spirit. It's a 3 mana, 3/2 with Menace and Death Touch. And the build around here is the instant and sorcery spells you control have Death Touch. So any amount of damage that we deal to a creature is enough to destroy it. So in order to take advantage of that, we're running things like Shock as a 4-of. And also is just a nice way to deal with creatures in the early turns. Same thing here with Lava Coil as a 2-of. We're also going to be running some hand disruption here in the 4 Croxes. Also, since we are a bit of a slower deck, it's a nice late game piece to help us close out the game. Running 3 Gideons, just a powerful Planeswalker that becomes a 4/4 indestructible on our turn, and also gives our other creatures Vigilance, Lifelink, or Indestructible. So we do get off to a little bit of a slower start. We can give our Pestilent Spirit or Bonecrusher Giant or Haktos, assuming that it doesn't have protection from 3, we can give it Lifelink and just get a bunch of life back. We're also running all 4 Bonecrusher Giants. Stomp Side is just another great way to take advantage of Pestilent Spirit and kill any creature from our opponent. And then being able to also have a creature stapled onto that removal spell is pretty outstanding in this deck. And for one-sided board wraths, we're running 4 Cosmotronic Wave, which deals 1 damage to each creature our opponents control. So if we do have a Pestilent Spirit out, basically just wipes our opponent's side of the board. Everything they have is destroyed, unless of course as indestructible, which not many creatures have, except for maybe like the gods. Also running 2 Rapid Flames as copies 5 and 6 of Cosmotronic Wave. Although the downside is that it only targets up to 3 creatures. But the nice upside here, that even if you don't have a Pestilent Spirit down, is that with both spells, that your creatures your opponents control cannot block. So things like Haktos and Gideon can get through without having to worry about whatever your opponent might chump block. And also going to be running 2 Elspeth Conquers Death. Since we are running some good early game removal, we also need something to kind of help us deal with the bigger threats, Planeswalkers, enchantments, things like that. So Elspeth Conquers Death is a fantastic answer to those types of spells. And also has the upside of bringing our creatures back. Or Planeswalkers, such as 2 Sarkhan. It's another great way to put creatures on the board from a Planeswalker and then turn itself into a creature on subsequent turns. And also even making Gideon a 4/4 flyer. And that's another great way for us to close out the game. And just one of Perforos's Intervention to round out the deck. It allows us to do X damage to target creature or Planeswalker, so a little bit of extra removal. And of course, if we have a Pestilent Spirit out, even just dealing 1 damage to a creature is enough to finish it off. And also just having a little bit of a late game finisher by making an X1 red elemental creature token with trample and haste can help us punch through for that last little bit of damage. For the mana base, we have 25 lands. So we got 2 basic plains, 1 swamp, 2 mountains, all 4 godless shrines, a couple Temple of Silence, all 4 blood crypt, 2 Temple of Malice, 4 Sacred Foundry, 3 Temple of Triumph, and then just a little bit of extra fixing here, 1 Fabled Passage. Alright, that's our main deck. Let's take a look at the sideboard real quick. So running 2 of Angrath's Rampage. It's a nice answer for like a Paradise Druid that's enchanted and therefore is might be hexproof. Same thing with Dream Charl, which is a super powerful card in the standard right now. Running 2 of Sorcerer's Spyglass is another way to kind of help us deal with Planeswalkers or anything that has an activated ability. Running 2 Banishing Light, just because it's such a powerful utility removal spell at 3 mana. Lets us answer any type of non-land permanent from our opponent. And then 2 Murderous Riders for those creature and Planeswalker heavy matchups where we need the extra bit of removal. And against control and sweepers, we're going to bring in a couple of Legion Warboss to help us kind of pump out tokens turn after turn. We're going to be running 2 Shatter the Sky to help us kind of deal with our opponent when they go wide. And we can't always rely on the Pestilence Spirit to clear the board for us. We just need some hard removal, and Shatter the Sky is a super efficient way for that. And since we do have some creatures with power 4 or greater, it does have a little bit of upside with allowing us to draw a card. And we're also going to be running 2 Chandras for those control matchups where it cannot be countered, and then we can give our opponent an emblem and chip away at their life total. It also can act in certain matchups as kind of a mini sweeper, dealing 3 damage to each non-elemental creature. Or we can just deal X damage to a creature or planeswalker and then exile that. And we're also running 1 of Heliod's Intervention, mostly as a way to kind of deal with enchantments. But it does have a allow us to answer artifacts as well, so we'll kind of see how that goes. And I'm not sure if the gaining twice X life would ever be relevant very often, but certainly something to consider in the right matchup. Alright, let's see if we can jump into some best of 3 matches here on Arena Standard with Mardu Pestilence. So when I first started playing Magic, the card Pestilence was actually my first favorite card. And so having a Pestilence Spirit out and then dealing 1 damage to each creature on our opponent's side and wipe the board is a pretty satisfying and familiar feeling. Alright, up against our first opponent, Nadia Primal Ravager. That's a sweet name. Though they do have the Jace avatar, so I'm not sure how I feel about that. So hopefully they're not some kind of a blue counterspell heavy deck, as the avatar might imply. Alright, looks like we get to go first. Oh no, our opponent goes first. Missed that. We don't have anything black in hand, so I think we'll just lead with our temples. And hopefully we can find a Pestilence Spirit. So 4 lands, that's fine. We have a sweeper, and we have some creatures. The Bone Crusher Giant can act as some removal with the Stomp. Our opponent leads with an island. Okay, scry. Don't need more lands. Opponent stuck on 1 land. We'll just tempo again. And again, I think we're just looking for the Pestilence Spirit. Although if it's a control matchup, I'm not sure how valuable that might be. There's a chance that there may be some kind of a flash deck. But nope, we see the Dismal Water backwater come down, so they're probably just a some kind of a Dimir, possibly Esper control deck. So we'll see how this one goes. We have a couple Haktos here that can do quite a bit of damage here pretty quickly. Okay, I'm not sure why the Dimir player thinks that our Bone Crusher Giant is nice. Maybe they're running Thief of Sanity, and they're glad that we didn't stop it. Since we don't know what our opponent is up to. Unsummon, okay. I think we're just interested in Haktos next turn, since it's going to give us protection from probably most of what they're playing. So what do we need here? We need white and red. We do have some basics, so we can just play untap lands. So Haktos has protection from everything but 4. Our opponent's stuck on 2 lands, so that buys us some time. And we have a second one in hand as well, so we're in a pretty decent spot. Alright, opponent having trouble hitting their land drops. Let's see what their discard is. Windstorm Drake. Okay, so they're just some kind of a flyer heavy deck. No, they haven't put any creatures yet. I'm wondering if it's worth holding on to the Bone Crusher Giant. Ooh, we got a Pestilence Spirit. So I think that that answers that. Okay, so whatever creatures they play, we can follow it up with a Cosmotronic Wave and wipe the board from our opponent's side. Unless, of course, they have an immediate answer to our Pestilence Spirit. But they also have to deal with this Haktos. And if they continue missing land drops, they're not going to be able to deal with anything. Oh, that's unfortunate. Oh, our opponent's hanging in there. Okay, discarding the Unsummon, and they could play it on the Bone Crusher Giant again, slow us down a little bit. Certainly a case here to not play the Spirit. Our opponent good gaming us. Not sure if that's because they have maybe some kind of a answer up their sleeve. But if they're not going to concede, then I'm just going to keep playing, trying to play smart. Good game in return, now that we know for sure. There's so many people who like to troll here, so I don't really know when people say good game if they actually mean it, especially when it seems like it's maybe a little bit early. Okay, so it's like there may be a little bit of a slower deck. Maybe they had a bunch of 3, 4, 5 drops. Flyers, so making 4/4 dragons seems pretty good. Could bring in some Shatter the Skies. But we don't know if they're running a bunch of counters. They're running creatures that are higher up on the curve, then Haktos will have protection from most of them, so that feels pretty powerful. Gideon always feels strong against control decks, but if they have a bunch of flyers, we may not be able to block them. And I do want to get at least one Chandra in here, just as some kind of counter protection. Shatter the Sky could be pretty reasonable as well. Maybe we'll bring 2 of those in and shave off the Rapid Flames just to be on the safer side. And yeah, let's try it like that. So some kind of a Dimir Flyers. I don't know what the black is for. Maybe just like a Body Erasure, Tyrant Scorn, things like that, maybe. And seems pretty good. We've got our Pestilence Spirit. Hopefully we can see it put in some work this time. We got enough lands. So we can just get these shock lands down. And hold up the Fabled Passage for whatever fixing we might need. Alright, and I see our opponent hitting land drops this time. Hold up the shock in case they are running something like a Thief of Sanity. Spectral Sailor. So not a Thief, but a Warden of Evos Isle. I think we'll want to get rid of that since they did show some 4 and 5 drops. I'm fine with just taking the 1 here from the Spectral Sailor. Certainly something we can answer later on. Go and get our Spirit down. And depending on what we draw, I might just play the Temple next turn. And be ready to Sarkon the following turn. we're just looking for our board wipes. Okay, running the murder out there. Dealing with our Pestilence Spirit. It's unfortunate. Like to see it go off at least once. Okay. Doesn't matter which temple. We need to whiten down for a Haktos maybe. So it doesn't really matter too much. Well, there's our Cosmotronic Wave, but no Pestilence Spirit, so I think we'll put it to the bottom. Maybe looking for another Spirit here. Maybe just some spot removal. Okay, Winged Words. We fill in their hand. Bloodthirsty Aerialists. I mean, it's a flyer. It matches their colors. But we haven't really seen anything else that gains them life, so it's a curious inclusion. Maybe it's just a filler for the 3-drop. Spin our deck a little bit since we are drawing quite a bit of lands. Get our 4/4 down and see what our opponent's up to. So this flood is definitely hurting us pretty hard here, as our opponent has quite a bit of card advantage of us. We're sitting on 4 lands and they're sitting on 4 spells, which I'm betting are not lands. The Spectral Sailor can continue drawing them cards, although it cannot attack. Okay, so they do have some life gain with the Vindictive Vampire. And Unsummon cleanly answers our token. Nice. So now they can finish off our Sarkon. Okay, our opponent just toying with us. And we're drawing nothing but lands, so let's go on to game 3. I have a little bit of idea what our opponent's up to. So they don't seem like they were very counter heavy. I'm not sure that we need Chandra, though she has kind of a nice board wipe. It's definitely a case to leave her in. Even bring the Gideon back. Yeah, seems fine. Alright, on to game 3. Hopefully we don't flood out this time. And seems okay. We'll try it. Foundry down tapped. I'll probably just Crocs it next turn. Shock that in so we can do this. I hope we can stop drawing lands here. We already flooded out last game. It's not what we want to see here 2 games in a row. Okay. So your Dimir Flyers / Vampires. Knight and Ebon Legion. Well, we definitely don't want to see that stick around any longer, so let's just kill that while we can. And if we don't get Thought Erasure, hopefully this Chandra can clear the board in a couple more turns. Just hard casting the Winged Words. The other downside to drawing all these lands is we don't have spells to fill up our graveyard for Croxa. It does feel like Chandra hits most or all of their creatures. I think we'll run the Sarkhan out there and see what kind of removal our opponent has. They've had the unsummon every single time, so let's see if they have it again. And we'll definitely shock in our Chandra next turn. Yep, they have unsummon yet again. It's no problem. Sarkhan is just kind of there. Spectral Sailor at sorcery speed, that's what we like to see. They do have 2 mana open, but Chandra cannot be countered. So not too worried about that. I don't know why they're not bringing in their attacking with all their creatures.
If you haven't heard of me,
Our opponent just being cute and trying to toy with
make
us.
some more room to fight in.
See if they have a way to deal with our Chandra. Alright, we'll definitely get that emblem going. And yeah, just looking to find some threats here. Bone Crusher Giants, Pestilence Spirit, Hakdos. We can exile that. We also have a Shadow the Sky. Let's make them discard first, and then we'll consider. If they have another one, they could hit Chandra for 4. So I think I'm fine with just putting another emblem out. And if they want to add to the board, then we can Shatter the Sky the following turn. Definitely want to punish our opponent for toying around and not attacking when they should be. I think 2 creatures is pretty reasonable to shatter. Just keep giving them emblems and chipping away their life total. They have a little bit of life gain, but it seemed pretty incremental since they're basically on 2 different strategies in one deck. On the one hand you got vampires, the other hand you got flyers. Okay, 5/5. Again, I think we'll just keep plussing Chandra and try to give him as many counters, emblems as possible. And if this Hakdos can get through, then put them down to 6, and then on their upkeep they'll die to emblems, so we're in pretty good shape. The only thing they could have had was a murder, and they obviously do not have it. Or they chose not to play it for some reason.
What a warm reception.
Yeah, just give them one more emblem just to be sure.
Or is it getting a little warm in here?
And that's 5. Well, flooded pretty hard there in game 2, but game 3 we were able to have a pretty strong showing. Alright guys, hope you enjoyed the deck, and look forward to seeing the next one. Take care.